Ghosts. Ooh, spooky. The original horror stories told around the campfire were filled with shadowy figures from beyond the grave. It's great that there are still movies that talk about our fear and fascination with death and what comes after. Today's pick for number 20 deals with what comes next for us after we die, and it's both a touching and chilling film. This is M.L. Miller Frights, and this is my countdown of the best in horror, released October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. Presence was released on January 24th, 2025, and is streaming on Hulu from Neon Films. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by David Koepp. Presence is told from the perspective of an unnamed spirit floating around the rooms of a house about to be bought by a family, made up of father Kris, played by This Is Us's Kris Sullivan, mother Rebecca, played by the one and only Lucy Liu, son Tyler, played by Eddie Madej, and daughter Chloe, played by Kalina Lang. As the family moves into the home, it's apparent that there are some serious problems going on. Rebecca is involved with some kind of illegal scheme that her husband knows a little bit about, but is attempting to steer clear of. Tyler is trying to fit into a new school and has some serious anger issues that he unfortunately unleashes upon his sister Chloe. And Chloe recently lost her best friend who died of a drug overdose. We learn about all of this drama and more as the ghostly entity floats from one conversation to the next without being noticed by the family. But as danger nears, Chloe, the entity, which seems to have formed a strong bond with the young girl, struggles to prevent tragedy from happening to this troubled family. Presence is an ambitious yet flawed little film that could only be made by a seasoned filmmaker like Steven Soderbergh. While I don't always love what Soderbergh does, I do admire his attempt to tell different kinds of stories from brand new perspectives. Sure, we've seen films made from the perspective of the monster before, but Soderbergh commits to the bit and makes sure this forced perspective is used for the entire film without any cheats. And that's impressive to me. I've seen criticisms that say Presence is not actually a horror movie, and I understand where those folks are coming from. This film is heavy on the family conflict. It fleshes out 4 characters that feel fully realized with good and bad parts. If anything, this is a movie that shows how we all can be very ugly people behind the closed doors of our homes. Most of the characters have some really bad traits that we see through the floating eyes of this entity. Rebecca favors Tyler and doesn't seem very hesitant to make that clear to everyone, even Chloe. Kris knows Rebecca was out of his league, but she was looking for stability, so she chose him. Tyler is an angry young man, impatient with his sister's grief process, and rebellious from Kris's orders to be nicer to her. And Chloe is making some very reckless decisions as she deals with the death of her friend. All of this could make for some pretty thick melodrama, and it does, but every time we get a scene of drama between members of the family, it's punctuated with a reminder that we're getting all of this information from the perspective of a ghost. One of the things that needs to be mentioned are the roles each family member takes. While this seems like the perfect nuclear family, it's problematic to the core with all kinds of dysfunction. Lou's Rebecca is not a pretty role, and she gives her the same kind of authority she often exudes, yet seems like a cup filled to the brim about to spill at any minute. The kids' characters are nice and depthy as well, but what impressed me the most was the performance of Kris Sullivan as Kris, the father of the family. I'm so used to seeing the bumbling, clueless father role in pretty much every TV and movie produced these days. But Sullivan plays against type and offers up the most complex role of the film. He's understanding to his daughter, patient with his wife, and stern but loving to his son. While he gets the brunt of the abuse from Rebecca and Tyler, he remains sturdy. Bless this film for going against the tired Hollywood trope of the Homer Simpson-style father. More films and TV should take note of this nuanced and strong role Sullivan plays in Presence. Soderbergh's camera swoops and twirls through the elegant house, transitioning from one conversation to another. but every movement of the camera seems to have purpose. We're getting just enough information for us to understand what's happening and piece it together, though not everyone in the house is privy to all of the angles of this information. I won't go into the depths of the danger Chloe is in, but it is serious, and only the ghost seems to know the whole story, putting the ghost, like the viewer, in the frustrating and often excruciating position of being forced to watch these bad things escalate. Now, as I said, this isn't a perfect film. The threat to Chloe is extremely cliched, and I could see it coming from a mile away, as well as a major revelation about one character's motivations with her. I could even take this cliched situation if it were written well, but the dangerous character in question spouts some of the worst dialogue I've heard from a villain this side of an old Popeye cartoon. It's just plain bad, from the delivery to the words said that explains way too much for the cheap seats. But, and that's a big old but, this leads to one of the smartest and most emotionally devastating revelations in the final minute I've ever seen in a movie. The way this film wraps up is shocking, comes out of nowhere, and yet is something I feel I should have picked up on from the get-go, but didn't. It gives me chills just thinking about it. It's one of those revelations that will make you immediately want to restart the movie and watch it again, now knowing what you know. That's all I will say, but for every fault this film has, and it has a few in terms of dialogue and cliched motivations of the quote-unquote villain, the ending makes up for it big time. Unique concept, strong performances, and an ending that made my jaw drop so far I could taste my toes. That's what Presence has going for it. While it does have scares occasionally, the film combines melodrama and horror in an interesting and fresh way. Presence truly is a beautifully thrilling and frighteningly meaningful film. Also using the first-person POV format, but this one doing it in more of a traditional found footage style, is House on Eden, a fun film that just missed being on my main countdown, but shows up here in worth noting. House on Eden was released on July 25th, 2025, and is available on demand on Amazon Prime from Shudder and RLJE Films. I'm sure it will be showing up on demand very soon. It's directed and written by Kris Collins. A trio of paranormal investigators / YouTube influencers, played by writer-director Kris Collins, Selena Myers, and Jason Christopher Meyer, traveled to a little-known haunted location known as the House on Eden, where a young girl went missing decades ago. Upon arriving at the house, the investigators' relationships begin to fray as strange happenings occur in the periphery. Are the actors successfully acting like they aren't acting? The actors are playing themselves as TikTok influencers, and I know this is hypocritical, me being somewhat of a YouTube influencer myself, but films about influencers annoy me. There is quite a bit of mugging for the camera by the trio, as they think much more about what will get them more hits than their own safety. But on top of that, there does seem to be more going on under the surface, as House on Eden really gives a behind-the-scenes look of the resentments, pressures, and issues that arise in a world that hinges on short clips online. Director-writer Kris Collins does a great job of being the leader of the group, often neglecting the feelings of others. It definitely seems that the house is affecting her in a negative way and amplifying her brash, gung-ho attitude, but she conveys the increasing intensity of these feelings well. Her co-host, Selena Myers, serves as fine comic relief and definitely has an over-the-top attitude that might rub some people wrongly. But she provides a much-needed tension break when things do get intense. Cameraman Jason Christopher Meyer gets less to play with, but does a great job of being the eyes and ears of the film. He really does get overshadowed by the two leads, though. Long story short, these guys do a good job of acting natural as TikTokers can be, that is. Does the footage found seem authentic and untouched by additional production? House on Eden really impressed me at how authentic it all feels. While I do think that there's some kind of omniscient editing going on, as the story switches perspectives between the cameras all three of the cast are using. This could have been rectified by a simple opening scrawl saying that the following footage was found and edited together by authorities in order to get a clear picture of what happened. House on Eden didn't have that. Still, I commend this film for not using music to punctuate and prepare the audience for scares. It makes a world of difference when there isn't the anticipatory synth chord and scares occur out of the blue. House on Eden takes a page from The Blair Witch Project and opens without title cards or anything, only identifying it as a movie after the final reel runs out. making it a much more authentic watch than most found footage films made today. Why don't they just drop the camera and get the hell out of there? Sometimes this group do drop the camera, or maybe forget it behind in the woods, and sometimes they leave it running accidentally. But because this is a paranormal investigation, there is an intent to film everything. Every trick in the paranormal investigation book is used. Glowing balls that illuminate when tapped by the supernatural, radio scanning opening up lines of communication, and EVP recordings that will hopefully allow the ghosts to speak. While the popularity of the paranormal investigation shows may be passing, House on Eden recreates one very well. Is there an up-nose Blair Witch confessional or a wrecked drag-away from the camera? There are a couple of up-noses, but they're not confessionals, only because the camera person is so scared they forgot to turn off the camera and are clutching onto it for dear life. Thankfully, House on Eden adopts the feel of the Blair Witch Project rather than copying tired, iconic scenes from more popular films. Does anything actually happen? Is the lead in too long and the payoff too short? There is a nice gradual increase of strange things happening pretty early on in House of Eden. There's a wonderful little moment in the middle when everybody blacks out and wakes up the next day that really brings the character out in each of our players while deepening the threat. Yes, there's a rush to the end, but this is definitely not a boring film by a long shot. Does the film add anything to the subgenre, and is it worth watching? House on Eden doesn't necessarily add to the genre, apart from being a really good found footage film. It's genuinely scary, it all feels real, and the threat, which I'm keeping vague on purpose, is a lot of fun. Yes, I've seen this type of ending before, but I appreciate the fact that filmmaker Kris has made a terrifying, claustrophobic, and white-knuckle old-school scary movie about kids with cameras in the woods and inside of a haunted house. Sometimes it's the simple things that work, and House on Eden works all of that very well. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your own favorite movies of the year. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.